Can you speak a little bit more to the connection between aliens and technology that Jacques Vallee had in his own one individual mind? That's very tempting to kind of separate as two separate endeavors. Why did you come to believe that they are one and the same, or at least part of the same intellectual journey?
Thanks for asking that again, because nobody asks me that question, and it's central to my project. So Jacques was a huge influence, is a huge influence on me. He taught me a lot. He gave me access to some of his information that he keeps. But a lot of his information is actually out there for everyone to read. He has an academia.edu page, and so he didn't have this, unfortunately, when I was doing my research in 2012 and 2013. So I had to go back and do microfiche type stuff, What I did was I began to read everything that he wrote. And he actually gave me a lot of his books too. And he told me, I remember he dropped me off from, this is actually quite interesting if you'll allow me to tell you a little story.
Please. Yeah.
Okay. And it also includes ayahuasca. So
great. Every story that includes ayahuasca is a great story.
Okay. So I was at a conference, and it was a small conference of very interesting people in California on the Pacific Ocean. And Jacques was there. And this is actually, it opens my book. This is the book. It's the preface to my book. I go on this ride. He takes me through Silicon Valley. I've lived there, right? My grandparents grew up in the same place that he raised his children in Belmont. And so, but we were there with Robbie Graham, who's a great ufologist in his own right, and film theorist. I highly recommend his work. So we were together, and he was taking us to San Francisco, where I was going to meet my brother, who was going to take me home. And so he took us on this long journey, and he talked to us. And as we got out of the car, he gave me several of his books. And one in particular he gave me, and he said, "Read this first." And I was like, okay, I definitely will read that first. Okay, so this is how the ayahuasca figures in. So I didn't take it, nor have I taken it. Okay, so we were at this place and in California, and Alex Gray and his wife were there, and they were talking about their experiences with psychedelics. He's an amazing visionary artist. Okay. So he believes that there's this place that you can enter, and he and his wife would enter this space with either, ayahuasca or LSD or something like that. And they would not talk to each other, but they would be having the same exact experience. So they would, it was almost like having the same dream, right?
Wow.
Okay. So somehow that whole event with Jacques there and them talking about their experiences in these realms, of which religious studies people are quite familiar, by the way, because visionary experiences are what we study.
Yeah.
So all of this seems super familiar to me. And I recognized that immediately, that Jacques, that it hit me like, very obvious that UFOs and these experiences and technology all seemed, they were all meshed together. And I knew that I had to take them. I knew I had to read everything Jacques ever wrote. And the best stuff he's written, by the way, is his little essays that he wrote in the 1970s. And they were peer-reviewed essays about the beginning of the internet, and how a lot of it was based on basically like neural connection with the internet, like somehow psychic connection through the internet with others and things like that.
So the brain is a biological neural network. There's this connection between individual neurons and so on, and that's what ultimately is able to have memories and has cognitive ability and is able to perceive the world and generate ideas. And those ideas are then spread on the internet, even from the very early days, to other humans. So it gets injected or travels into the brains of other humans, and that goes around in there and then spits out other stuff, and it goes back and forth. So it's nice to think of the network that's in our mind, individual mind, as, very much even deeply connected to the network that is the connection between humans through the internet. And so in that sense, Jacques saw the internet as this powerful as a source of power and wisdom that is beyond our own.
Exactly.
Again,
that's external to us, like if you could call it autonomous AI, right?
It's non-human intelligence in
Yeah.
a sense, even though humans are a part of it.
Yes, or we're invaded by it, or whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah. Whoever, right. It's the chicken and the egg, right.
So if I can go on, the
Yes,
ayahuasca
please.
experience thing.
Oh, yes,
Still,
yes.
I'm not done with that.
Yeah.
So this is where I come to this idea that we're in this space. We're in now a new space of religion, of religiosity. So what happens is then and it's like a biosphere, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So Jacques takes us back. We get to San Francisco, and my brother, who is your straight-laced person, army guy and everything like that, I get into his car, and the first thing he tells me is, I took ayahuasca. And I was like, what? And he goes, it's going to save humanity.
That's great.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you offline, I talked to Matthew Johnson. He's a Hopkins professor he's really a scholar of most. He's studied most drugs. He's also really deeply studied cocaine, all those stuff, negative effects, and he's focused on a lot of positive effects of the different psychedelics. It's kind of fascinating. So I'm very much interested in exploring the science of what these things do to the human mind, and also personally exploring it. Although it's like this weird gray area, which he's masterful at, which is he's a professor at Johns Hopkins, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, and doing large scale studies of this stuff. Yeah. And until he got a lot of money for these studies, even in Hopkins itself, there's not much respect. It's not even respect. It was like people just didn't want to talk about it as a legitimate field of inquiry. It's kind of fascinating how hesitant we are as a little human civilization to legitimize the exploration of the mysterious, of whatever the definition of the mysterious is for that particular period of time. So for us now, there's like little groups of things. Like I would say consciousness in the space of like computer science research is something that's still like, I don't know, maybe let philosophers kick it around for a little longer. And then certainly extraterrestrial life forms from in most formulations of that problem space is still the other. It's still the source of the mysterious, except maybe like SETI, which is like, how can we detect signals from far away alien intelligences that would be able to perceive? Yeah, it's and psychedelics is another one of those. That's like we're starting to see. Okay, well, can we try to see if there's some medical applications of like helping you get like he does studies of help you quit smoking or help you in some kind of treatment of some disease, and he's sneaking into that. I mean, it's like openly sneaking into it. He's doing studies on it of like, how can you expand the mind with these tools, and what can the mind discover through psychedelics and so on. Yes. And we're like slowly creeping into the space of being able to explore these mysterious questions. But it's like, it sucks that sometimes a lot of people have to die, meaning, they have to age out. Like, it's like faculty have and people have a fixed set of ideas and they stick by them. And in order for new ideas to come in, then the young folks have to be born with an open mind, the possibility of those ideas, and then they have to become old enough and get A's in school and whatever to then carry those ideas forward. So the acceptance of the exploration of the mysterious takes time. It's kind of sad.
It is sad. I agree.